Hello everyone, I'm going to be showing you process of how I go back and paint my prints with watercolor. For this process, if you're printing, you need to use a oil-based ink to print on this. If you use a water-based ink, that will be reactivated when you start to paint on your watercolor and your print will get all messed up. So you need to print on a water-based, on an oil-based ink. So I'll be kind of walking you through the process of how I go and paint on my prints here. Okay, to start my print, I'm going to work on the background first, and what I did is I just took my my water that I have for my watercolor, and I went over the background and wetted the background surface, and now I'm just going to start and paint in the background, and I'm going to do a kind of a dark green background for this process. And so the wet process will activate the paper and make it easier to spread. This is a wet on wet process, and I'll just continue this throughout my background until it's done. Okay, so the key to watercolor is layers. So here's my layer 1. For this is a yellow-throated warbler, and they like to be in kind of wooded areas. So I'm just doing like kind of a real wooded green and doing a gradient. So it's going to be lighter up here, like some tree light is seeking through, and it's going to be darker down here. That's layer 1. Let that dry, and I'm going to start on the bird now. Okay, so I went and added the first layer to the warbler, and I added a little orange to the yellow just to make it a warmer yellow so it stand out against the green background. And you see I left this white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and just fill that in. I have a clean brush now that I was painting with yellow, and I'm just going to go back very lightly, and that's just going to be like a highlight spot. And so I just blended that in with a wet, clean brush. Okay, so I went and added my second layer to the bird. And one important note, when you're painting, you need to keep in mind the value scale still. You still want to have good values of lights and darks. And when you're painting, a good thing to keep in mind is your negative shapes, your negative areas, all the white that you're filling in. You want to keep your highlight, but you're adding in kind of the shadows of that area. And in the darker area, what you're painting over, you're just painting the highlights. You already have your dark kind of values from your print. So keep that in mind, whether you're painting your highlights or your shadows, to still keep a good value of your darks and lights. So I'm painting this stump now, and I did my first layer of brown. A good thing to consider is stumps and trees, they're not just brown. They have lots of different colors to it. I can add lots of blues and greens, add some moss and some lichen on my stump. So Kidders wanted to join me and help me finish out my painting. So I went back and I painted the stump, and I did a layer of brown, and then I went back and added a bunch of greens and blues to it. And then I added my second layer to the background and made it darker down here, and I just kind of lightened it up and put a little bit of yellow at the top there. And I'm really happy with this. One thing I can go back and add, these are watercolor markers, and they're just really pigment, and I may go back and just add just a touch of really saturated color to this and give it a final pop. Okay, so I went back and added a little bit of highlights of really saturated color to the piece with those markers, and now I'm finished, and that's kind of how I paint my prints. I hope you enjoyed that, and have a good day, and Kidders is wishing you all well.